Comic Corner. My name is Damon. I am your host, and what we do here is comic book news, reviews, and interviews. And once again, I have my good friend from the West Coast, TJ, aka Fat Thor. Buddy, how are you on this fine morning?
Hello, everybody. I am fantastic. We have some great books to talk about this week, as every week, and I cannot wait to get into it with you. Talked a little bit before we started recording, but whoo, baby, we got some fire this week. Everybody listening and watching at home, be sure to go to your local comic shop because you cannot miss some of these issues this week.
Absolutely. And it starts off, here's our rundown for the day, because Peak Spider-Man is here. The best Spider-Man. The Spider-Man. Spider-Peak. Whatever you want to say. It's Ultimate Spider-Man. It's freaking fantastic. We love it. It's so good. And we'll talk about this latest issue that came out this week because it's phenomenal. A Venom fans assemble? There's a new book from Distillery from Ryan Stegman. And if you like Venom, I think you'll like this book. It's Venom with a demonic twist. We'll chat about that. And it's time to get spooky. We got a lot of spooky books. It is getting into, well, I've been saying it since September 1st is spooky season. I put my line on the line. But for some, maybe it's a little later in September, so we're here. It's time to get spooky. We got a lot of horror books, a lot of spooky books to talk about. And we will get into that. But first, let's start with Peak. Start with Peak, TJ. Ultimate Spider-Man, number 9, Jonathan Hickman, Marco Cicchetto. We have on the cover here the beginning of the Sinister Six attacking Spider-Man. The spider senses are going off. And this issue gives us a little bit of that. A little bit of Sinister Six. We get our Black Cat, who is Felicia Hardy's father in this world, who's still alive. And he goes after Spider-Man, and he goes after Green Goblin, but that is not before they get some new suits. We get some new suits here, and that's like kind of one of the interesting things about this issue, because Green Goblin gets a little bit of a suit hardware upgrade to kind of make sure that Tony Stark and all that stuff stay far away from him. They don't know what they're doing anymore. And because Spider-Man's suit almost has like that nanotech symbiotic type of stuff going on, Peter had two options, TJ. He could either take the classic latex simple suit, nothing special except the web shooters. Or what was this other thing they were teasing, TJ? What was that?
Iron Spider, baby, the best suit to ever exist in the Spider-Verse.
Oz. Yep. The Otto Octavius made his version of the Iron Spider suit. And it was a little bulky. It was a little chunky.
It was chunky, dude, like a suit of armor.
Now, my question is, we can start speculating, right? Because this is the Ultimate Universe. We're now like totally branched off. Anything can happen. What if Otto Octavius doesn't become Doc Ock? He becomes the Iron Spider. Or because they had the Iron Spider has like the tentacle stuff, right?
Dude, I love that. I absolutely love that. I never even considered that, but I love it.
Just thought about it. Boom. Right there. Right in there.
Crazy brain.
There's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of great stuff in this issue. We get some good stuff with Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson and MJ involving the paper, and how all their big stuff is involving Spider-Man. Trust me, guys, I feel that. Whenever we talk Spider-Man, more people watch us. I totally get it. And they're like, well, we have a real story here. Why does it have to be Spider-Man? And hey, guys, it's a good thing. Some may say it's a spectacular thing. Some may say it's an amazing thing. Ooh. I love those little sprinkles in there throughout that they put in this book. It's super fun. It's just, this book is everything that so many fans of Marvel, so many Spider-Man fans have just been wanting out of a Spider-Man book. Something that is uniquely its own, but still just at its soul Spider-Man. And we're not taking too much away from him. This is a brand new world, but it's just enough of a big change and a big swing, but still is just like, Spider-Man. Quippy guy, you.
I was just going to say that's something that I really enjoy about this book, which is, I feel, a small detail, but I think just brings it all together. Is, like you said, this totally reminds me of like Spider-Man that I read as a kid, like goofy, like quippy when he's like just like chilling in Otto's like lab with Green Goblin. Like he's kind of just like aloofly like sitting in the on the corner or something. Like I just love all that stuff. And the suit stuff, you chose a very interesting choice of words when describing the suits, symbiotic. And we're throwing out theories here. I think we talked about this on our last time we talked about Ultimate Spidey, but that suit has a lot of symbiote qualities to it. The way he's like kind of arguing, he's like, "Oh, you can just leave me at home" or something like that. I was like, "Yo, this is definitely Venom." So I love that. And I love your Iron Spider theory with Otto Octavius. I think that's fantastic. And I am one of the very few people, maybe the only person in the world, I think, who actually enjoyed the Iron Spider suit. I always thought it looked dope. I always really enjoyed it, which I also, granted, I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 when Civil War came out. So I was like prime, like, in that age. So when that came out, I was like, oh, hell yeah, it's red, gold, got arms. So yeah, I love it. I love this issue. It contains everything that we love about this series thus far. I think this issue in particular did a really great job with balancing all those elements. Like we got, like you said, a little bit of Ben and Jonah, and then we get a little bit of Peter and whatever, Harry, that's his name, Harry and Otto, like kind of discussing the tech stuff. And then we get a nice fight at the end of the issue, which I love issues that are just, I forget, maybe it was 4 or 3 that was more of a slower pace one. Like I enjoy those as well. But this one, I think, kind of just gave me everything I wanted on a plate,
No, I absolutely agree with that. And one of the fascinating things about this, if you like, you can dissect so many things in this issue, and I'm going to boil it down to 2 things. One, I really love the theory that maybe as the series goes on, Ben is the one who becomes more resentful of Spider-Man than J. Jonah Jameson is, right? So then Peter has to deal with that with the paper. And then 2, we get a little bit of the tension of Harry and Peter building up towards the end of the issue, because Peter in this world, so this is still Peter Parker, he still has that no kill rule, right? Like he's still very strictly focused on that, even though he had Black Cat like webbed up against the wall. Black Cat's like, all right, here we go. Now it's time. He's like, nah, dude, we're just gonna arrest you, right? Like it's something like that. But Harry has that little voice in his head. He has that goblin voice in his head, right? They're doing it that way with the AI dad, which is serving as his goblin voice to tell him, don't think, just do it. And he almost, at the very end, almost pushes Peter over the edge with his actions by not thinking. So we start to see a little bit of tension between the two, but by the end, they still make it up and they're still all good. I just love it's the way Hickman has been able to intertwine classic Spider-Man tropes but make them fit this world is so beyond clever and well done. It's just excellent. Guys, I can't recommend this enough. I really can't recommend this book enough. I wouldn't even give this particular issue a 10 out of 10. I'm very strict about my 10 out of 10s. This was a high quality 9.5. But that's what you get out of this run. Is yes, we do have a little bit of a slower burn sometimes, but this particular book just gave you a little bit of everything. And it's so good. It's just so good.
So good. The best Ultimate book for sure, if not the best book at Marvel. Easily.
I think the Ultimates does compete with this, where there's just pretty young into
Oh yeah, that's
run.
amazing. That's
But
what I
the
mean.
Ultimate,
Like that's why it's
yeah.
a statement, because like all of those books are amazing. But I really like, if you're gonna read one of them, even though like you said, I love the Ultimates, I would put it right there with it. I think I would have to recommend Ultimate Spider-Man, honestly.
I'm just gonna recommend all the Ultimate books because it's the best thing Marvel putting out right now, hands down. It's not even a competition, in my opinion. We're moving over to a publisher we actually haven't reviewed any of their books yet, and one of the reasons, I'll be honest, we're both comic book collectors. We go to the shop and we have our comic boxes and all this stuff. And Distillery, they do magazine style books, right? The bigger ones. Like you need a special box for the magazine styles. And I'm not going to lie. Personally, my opinion puts me off a little bit on that. I'll be honest. However, the books themselves, the few that I've read, are high quality because you get incredible creators on these books. We have Mirka Andolfo on one, Stephanie Phillips on one, James Tynion on one, and this one, Ryan Stegman and Jason Howard. This is called The Missionary, and I teased this earlier. And yeah, folks, if you like Venom, I think you're going to enjoy this book because we have a guy who's pretty down on his luck and down on his life. His wife is over here having a little affair with the bishop of a church. Things are not looking good for him. However, there's a demonic war that is starting to build and burn up, and then there's a demon who comes and finds him, who's allegedly trying to make good on his human life, which is why he became a demon in the first place. So what do they have to do? Eventually, he's asking him to bond together, and the demon's able to control his actions and all that stuff. And you get that, like, that thought back and forth of the guy being like, oh, I don't know. And demon's just like, yeah, I'll just speak for you. It'll be cool. It'll be great. Don't worry about it, kid, right? So you have that aspect. We then have a secondary aspect of it's almost like if you ever watched, oh golly, there's a show on Paramount on CBS that goes around and deals with like the supernatural and stuff, and they figure things out. Can't think of the name of it right now, to be honest. No. It is not. It is a current show. It's actually in its final season. And regardless, so this guy's like, he's almost like working for the church. He almost has like this little crucifix gun almost that blasts the demons out of people. And you almost get a little bit of Hellstrom. If you ever watched Hellstrom on Hulu, you get a little bit of that with this guy too. So you have like, the crossing paths and that stuff. It's cool. Like I said, it's if you like that Venom aspect of like, the two voices in your head and with a little bit of like a demonic twist to it, I recommend it. And there's a very explicit Red Band issue that is out. That is very gory and very spicy.
Gory and spicy. That's all you need during spooky season. I mean, like you said, the story like piques my interest. It doesn't, it's not necessarily something like, oh, I've never seen this before. But I think what really sells me on it, is Stegman, right? Especially if it's a Venom-like story. Who better to get than the Venom guy? Stegman and Donny Cates' Venom run is legendary at this point. It's only been a couple years since it ended. So to have him back kind of in that vein, even if it's, similar but different, I'm all for checking that out.
Yeah, it's definitely more like that demonic religious church vibe. You have the demons who have like all this war building up, and you already like see their leaders, and Satan is involved. All that good stuff, right? If you're into it, I do recommend it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was really well done. Like you said, Stegman in this world, it just fits. Some things just fit. Moving on to a book that we actually had a separate review for on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. It was myself and AF. This is Dying Inside by Pete Wentz and Hannah Klein with art from Lisa Sterrell. We had a full 15-minute discussion on it, so if you want to hear my thoughts on it, go check that out. I'll just summarize it very quickly. The art in here I thought was excellent. It does deal with some very harsh subject matters, so be advised of that going into it. Make sure that you're in a good space and that you're well supported before going into this book. But there's some actually like really good humor in here. The main character Ash, she's at a down point in her life and is trying to go through with something, and she eventually meets a girl named Liv. Pun intended on that one, at least. And it's really, at its end, a really good story about compassion and friendship and how important it is to, be there for each other and the friends that you have and just like how important like those relationships are.
I 100% agree. And I mean, the art cannot be overstated in this book. To me, that really is what sold it for me and what really kept me really engaged throughout. And I also would 100% agree. Like, we're dealing with some heavy stuff here, but in my opinion, I think it's handled very well with
Yes.
the certain things that we're getting into. And I think it really all came together for me at the end of the book. Like you said, when you kind of get the full message of it, it really came together for me. So yeah, this
Mm.
book was an absolute win for me. I really enjoyed it. And like you said, it definitely does get heavy at times, but again, in my opinion, it's done in a good I don't want to say good way, but it's done well. You know what I mean? And so again, I think this book was a win for sure. Shout out Pete Wentz, Fallout Boy, baby.
Yeah, it has a little bit of a message that you wouldn't expect. I'm gonna be honest too, but it's still a very good message, and the B plot here is also very interesting as well. So go check that out. It is a full graphic novel. It's right behind me. Go check that out. Pete Wentz, Hannah Klein, Lisa Sterle, Dying Inside. Also, quick shout out. We mentioned it during the episode. For those on the East Coast, if you're attending New York Comic Con, on Thursday from 1 to 2, Hannah Klein will actually be at the Volks Comics table in New York Comic Con to sign any issues, as well as there's a band featured in here called Daisy Grenade. And they're a real band. I went to go see them at Sad Summer Fest earlier in August, and they are fantastic. They're super fun. They're featured in this book. They even have, there's a QR code, and you can go to the Vault Comics Twitter account, and you can check out the song that they made specifically for this book. And they're going to be on tour with State Champs. They're going to be at Sad Summer Fest as well. So if you're going coast to coast like they are, hey, you get double Daisy Grenade with that. And yeah, go check it out if you're on the East Coast for New York Comic Con Thursday at 1 o'clock at the Vault Comics table. A book from Magma. You love your Magma books, TJ. Hell's
Magma, baby.
Half Acre. Tell me about this one.
Yes, so first off, like you said, I love my Magma books. Shout out to our friends at Magma. They are absolutely doing great work. This is one of their newest books, Hell's Half Acre, actually written by Magma co-founder Denton Tipton. So shout out to Denton. And this book was good. I really enjoyed this first issue. It's definitely a first issue where I need to see more of it. Like, we're introduced to this world, introduced to the characters briefly, I would say, but leaves you with a stinger at the end that, again, throughout further issues, I'm sure we're going to learn a little bit more about everything. Everything is going to get fleshed out more. But just on its surface, I think it's, like I said, a really good first issue. It is, I think, 1904 in the book. So it's
Yes,
got like that
1904
Western.
in Nashville.
Yeah. So it has like that Western kind of cowboy vibe to it. There's like a big part of this first issue is them playing poker. So again, like, just like that Western, like you're in a saloon, throwing some cards with the boys kind of thing. And yeah, like I said, it was really good. The stinger at the end hooked me, and it's, I would say, perfect spooky season book. Like, if you like Western stuff and you like, like demons and, spooky things, definitely one to check out for sure. And I would say too, I definitely could feel like, I don't know, but it feels like the action's going to be turned up a little bit as we move forward. We get some pretty good shots of that in this first issue.
Yeah, I thought the art in here was all right, and the story itself, it took me a while to get into just because there's a lot in this book that is trying to tell. You're in a saloon, you're going through a lot of different characters, you're starting to get into their heads, and uh, trying to figure out what's making everyone tick, right? It's a first issue and it really throws you into this world without much setup at all. And then at the very end, you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to get to this point from where we were, but okay, we'll see where it goes from here. So again, I do agree with TJ. If you like Westerns, even though it's just funny calling 1900s like Western, but if you like almost because it is a saloony type vibe, so if you're into that and you want like just a little bit of like a demonic twist to it at the very end, I think you should check this out.
And definitely, like you said, I think it's a definitely fly by the seat of your pants type of book.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said,
Yeah.
we're just dropped right into this world. We kind of are learning as we go. So that's why I say I enjoyed this first issue, but I'm more excited to see where it goes, because I think once we get a couple more issues, kind of flesh out what's going on, we can, look at it in a different light after that. But yeah, definitely go check it out, I would say, for sure.
Hello, darkness. From Boom
My old
Studios, this
friend.
is issue number 3. I already have bad news about this, TJ. I looked at my solicits, my previews. Capping this off at 12, man. Capping it off at 12. The ongoing ending at 12. Now, maybe we're
Damn.
going to be doing like a creep show style thing where,
Mhm.
you have different volumes of it to almost tell your different types of anthologies. Totally fine. Totally fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Anyway, we'll talk about issue 3.
12's still
Issue
pretty
3.
fat, though.
Yeah, 12's a
I would say
good
12's
first
pretty
volume
good.
run, right? 12's a pretty good first volume run.
Better than the Marvel 4 issue and done, or what is it, 4 or 6 now? I don't even know.
So, issue 3. And happens a lot with anthologies. There's some stories you're really into. Some of them, it is what it is, right? There's one story in here that has really clicked. And surprisingly, it's not the end one. That's called The War by Garth Ennis. Because for me, this third chapter of it wasn't where I wanted the story to go. I'm actually surprised where it's gone. I was like, oh, it gave me I was surprised. But I was like, oh, wow. I was expecting doing this already. However, I want to shout out Michael Conrad and Martin Marazzo and Chris O'Halloran for their first story in this book. Grossed me the hell out, dude. It's called Mukbang. Do you know what Mukbang is? Have you ever heard of Mukbang?
Unfortunately, I have.
Okay. All
But yeah,
right.
I know what that is.
So, for those who don't look it up.
I would
It's
say, please don't. I hate it.
don't.
I hate it so
It's
much.
essentially it's people who make a giant portion of food, an ungodly amount of food, and eat all of it. And shout out Martin Morazzo, because God, he made that look as gross as it really sounds. It
As
is
it should.
gruesome, and it gets even darker and darker because it's about two people trying to outdo each other in this space, and it takes a darker turn than it ever should. It's gross, it's gruesome. That was a story in here. I was like,
I agree. I mean, it definitely was my favorite of all the stories in this one. And like you said, I hate the mukbang stuff so much. Like my girlfriend will be watching TikTok. Like I'm not even one. Like so, there's people out there that like really like get annoyed with like people chewing and stuff like that annoys them.
oh,
That
yeah.
doesn't even really bother me that much, like in real life. But when I see those videos of people just like chewing, like the ASMR of eating, it
It's
drives
the
me nuts,
microphone right next to it. You get
dude.
the extra smickers and smackers.
Dude, I could crush my laptop with my bare hands. But so that's, I think, why I love this first story so much, because I'm just like, yes, show people why it's so gross. Like, make people understand why this sucks. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And like you said, it really takes a turn. And I also like, too, it's just like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just very, like, of the times, like,
Mhm.
like you said, we've all seen these kind of mukbang videos. So to use this kind of current trend and flip it into this creepy horror story, I love that. I thought it was great. But yeah, that was the other
Totally,
one.
yeah.
A little, I don't want to say a miss for me. Something's Killing the Children was pretty good. But again, we've talked about this. I'm not reading, I haven't read the whole line. So I feel like doesn't really hit me the same as someone who is reading Something's Killing the Children. And then the other ones, unfortunately, I got to be honest, just fell a little flat for me. Again, not bad by any means, just not really my flavor. I think they should have put the mukbang one maybe in the middle of the book or something, because I loved that one so much. It was like, okay, well, here's the bar. And then the other one just unfortunately didn't hit that bar.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I'll say one thing about the something is killing the children. That is actually made like it feels like these stories that they're telling in this. Now it's a little bit of unfortunate because it was the first issue was an issue like the first part of it was in issue one. Not much happens, and then we miss it in issue two, and now we're in issue three. You may have forgot like all the setup in issue one, so then now we're in the second part of that here in issue three. So you may have forgotten that a little bit. But that was actually, it feels like that's more written for someone who's never read Something's Killing Children before. Just
Hmm.
because it's like that story in itself of Erica going into a town and hearing that children being taken away and the monsters that are involved. That's nothing new to us longtime readers, right? So that's more to grab you in and be like, oh, this is cool. This seems cool. This seems like, a woman going into a town and being the monster hunter, the stereotypical, as a lot of people like to say, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but with monsters. You get a little bit of that. So I was interested, like, through the first two chapters of that, has that grabbed you yet? A little
Oh
bit?
yeah, it for sure grabbed me, and I'll kind of preface my previous, I guess you could say, criticism with I totally acknowledge that like this is my own problem because I am just like a super nerd and I want to know everything. So when I'm like it achieves what it set out to do in the sense of like I know I don't have to know about this world or anything. Like it does feel like a story I can just jump into, but again, being a super nerd, I just want to know everything. So I feel like I'm missing out on certain aspects. But again, I recognize that's just my own feelings. But for anyone else out there that's not like a super crazy nerd like me, absolutely can jump in on this fresh and have a great time. And like you said, I think the first two 100% achieve what it sets out to do in hooking both longtime and new readers.
You know what's funny? I was just looking. I'm going through the issue right now. There was a one page in here that I don't see in my physical copy because I've really been enjoying them. And I thought this one in particular, if I remember correctly, I'm gonna have to look back on this. I thought like this one oh there it is. Okay, I didn't miss it. Hack. I want to shout out Hack in this because Hack's been doing these one page like comic strips where each individual panel is like its own little like one shot story, right? Like it's just like it's a one almost political goofy cartoon, whatever you want to call it. That's been like one of my favorite things in this run so far, and there's a one of them in here in particular that I thought was just like like you shouldn't laugh, but it was funny because it's a husband and a wife, and they're almost like the husband is consoling the wife, and she's like, I don't know what to do with this kid. It's she's like, David, it's sad again. And the husband's like, don't worry, honey, we'll take it to the orphanage and replace it with a new one. It's so twisted.
Some
And
dark
it's like,
humor for
it's,
you.
oh, some horrible dark humor. But like, it's just like one of those, I've been enjoying those a lot in here. I think that's what makes it one of my favorite anthology books on the shelf right now. It's just small stuff like that. When you're
Yeah.
going through and you after the mukbang thing, you're like that you get a little bit dark humor in there, just a little bit.
I think we
Just a
talked
little
about
bit.
it on the first Hello Darkness, but yeah, I love the comic strip like little sections. I like you said, it adds something to the book. You know what I mean? Like a little, even though they're dark, like a little levity almost. You know?
We're keeping up with this spooky comic time right now. We got Frankenstein, Michael Walsh,
Go.
Tony Marie Griffin. This issue is about. So, if you didn't read the first issue, this is from the Universal Monsters kind of collection that Image has been doing. They've been fantastic. And the first issue had to deal with essentially the Frankenstein monster's hands. I always correct myself when I do that. The monster's hands. And what I think is interesting the series is doing essentially is almost telling the story about each part of the monster of Frankenstein. So this issue deals with the brain. Is this issue as incredible as that first one for me. No, but it's still very, very good. And I think it wraps at the end and it tells its complete story very well. I don't, because that first issue deals with a carpenter who died and they dug up his grave, Frankenstein and his assistant dug up his grave and took the guy's hands, and you're following the kid of that carpenter throughout. So you always have that connection to the original guy. This issue, you start with the original guy who had the brain, and you don't really get back to him until the very end. So you don't get that through line connection. You get more of a perspective on the assistant throughout the most of the issue before going back to the brain of it all. It's still very good. This whole book so far is still very, very good. And I think that's also a good thing to not have that constant thread throughout, because then that could get like a little repetitive to have almost like the same idea go through and through. It's still great. It's a really cool reimagining of Frankenstein.
I am so excited. I haven't read this second issue yet. Full disclosure, everybody. But man, that first issue was so good. And we've talked, I am a big Universal Monster guy. So like you said, I just love the concept of this so much. And I mean, there's been so many different iterations of Frankenstein's monster. So maybe someone has done something similar that I'm not aware of. But I just love the idea that Frankenstein's an iconic character at this point, but I feel like some people don't know, but many people do, that like Frankenstein's the doctor, Frankenstein's monster is the monster, right? And really the whole point of Frankenstein, the original novel by Mary Shelley, is that Frankenstein the doctor is actually the monster. The monster is just a creation of this guy, and it's really not good or bad. So to peel back the layers of like how he created this monster, the pieces that go into making this, quote unquote monster, I think that's just such a interesting idea, and it really hits at the heart of what Frankenstein is. Because again, we see the hands come from a carpenter, the brain comes from, it's like these people are not monsters, and this creation isn't necessarily a monster, but it was made by a monstrous person. And that's really what hooks me. And I'm so excited to see how the brain gets. I think we talked about this, like the eyes. I think that's going to be crazy. Like, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. So, I mean, just the possibilities are endless, I think, with how they can go through this book. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
Michael Walsh really knows how to do horror, and he does a really good job here. Gotta say, I've really been digging these Universal Monster books. They've been fantastic. Horror is a genre in comics. I know we always talk about superhero comics quite a bit, but not too much today, which is great, which is really cool. But superhero comics,
book.
Exactly. Like, that's like the genre everyone thinks when you think of comic books, but there's more to comics than just superheroes, guys. Yes, superheroes are great, and I have a lot of, look behind me. Got a lot of it behind me. It's no surprise. Just a few. But horror is a genre in comics that has never gone away.
I always tell people, like you said, like, yeah, obviously superheroes like dominate the genre undoubtedly. But there's really comics for everything. Like anything that you're into, I guarantee you can find a comic for it. Whether it's comedy, drama, horror, rom-com. I mean, there's romance. I mean, Jack Kirby kind of made his name with romance comics. Like there's comics for everyone, people. Like there is a comic out there for you. I guarantee it.
One genre you didn't mention? Science fiction, sci-fi is one that is another genre that is always out in the comic space. The trade paperback, I believe, for Principles of Necromancy is now out. TJ, now that you've officially read all of the issues, tell me what you think about the first volume.
Fantastic. Give me 14 more of them right now. But so good. I mean, I have praised this book for the last 3 months or so now that it's been coming out. Each issue has been better than the last. Each issue takes place from different perspectives as we follow our main character, Jacob Eyes, who is basically a medieval doctor. This is a world that has no magic, and the magic of this world is medicine and doctors. And basically, Jacob Eyes' one goal is to cure death. And to do that, he goes through all these crazy experiments and flesh kaiju monsters and just crazy stuff over I think it's 4 or 5 issues. 5 or 6 maybe. I pick the trade up and you won't have to worry about how many issues it is. But yeah, it's just really great book. I think they did an amazing job with tying up this first arc while also leaving room for so much more. We've already been confirmed that there will be a second arc to this. And I want to shout out what really sells the book and brings everything together is Eamon Winkle's art in this book. It is fantastic. If you like creepy, gory kind of body horror stuff, this is the book for you. I really cannot praise this enough. I really, really love this book, and I highly urge everyone go and pick it up at your local comic shop. Again, the trade just came out. If you like horror, if you like fantasy, pick it up. I guarantee you'll love it.
It is 4 issues, by the way, so it's not too long of a read if you want to read it in trade form. So go check that out. As you may have figured out, I'm in a bit of a horror kick. And body horror is a pretty cool aspect to it. There's a lot of subgenres within genre, so go check that out. All right, TJ. You know I ask you every week. He's got it ready. He's pulling it out. He's pulling out his Comic Geeks app with his pull list on it.
Yes,
He's getting ready for it.
Oh, wait, I got to go to next month. Okay, October 2nd, we have Daredevil number 14, which I had some not strong feelings, but a little on the fence of this series when it first started, but I think it's really hitting its stride now. I'm really getting more into it. Immortal Thor 16, obviously, love Immortal Thor. Last issue was great. I'm really excited to see how they build off of that. And X-Men number 5. Been loving X-Men. I still have not read X-Men number 4 yet. I think that came out last week, which crazy. I guess we're getting them every week now. But yeah, I'm really liking the who is it? Ryan Stegman and Jed, our boy Jed. I'm really loving that issue. Like we've said plenty of times before, it's Jed's world. We're just living in it. And I'm reveling in it. I love it. I'm excited to see where the series go. Again, we have talked at nauseum at this point on the X-Men runs and our differing opinions on them, which I think still stands. It still feels like a return to form, but one that I'm enjoying.
Yeah, I mean, for me, look, there's a reason I put this comic up right now, because if you are into the movies, if you're into the TV shows, if you've been enjoying the Penguin, you're really excited for more DC stuff. Hey, Creature Commandos is coming out later this year, I believe sometime in December, and why not get excited for it and get ready for it than a Creature Commandos comic book? What? Yeah, we have a new Creature Commandos comic. Now, this is not going to be like one of those, this is setting up the team in the TV show. This is a very different team. We still have Frankenstein in here, but we also have a lot of other characters who are not in the show. So if you just want to like kind of know who Creature Commandos are, like this is a really cool opportunity to kind of get into a brand new run of what they're saying. DC Horror presents Creature Commandos. Other comics I'm looking out for, look, we've interviewed Kelly Thompson here 3 times. I'm a big fan of her. Go check out Birds of Prey. I believe this arc is coming to a close soon. And also Nice House by the Sea, which is a sequel to Nice House by the Lake. And it is so far so good. I'm kind of surprised with the Nice House by the Sea how quickly that book has kind of started blending together the 2 books already. I thought it'd be a little longer than what it already was. I'm gonna be like, I thought we like kind of play in this new sandbox a little longer. But if you're just like digging into like, I want the story to continue, that's exactly what you're getting out of this. Like you're getting straight story continuation. So don't check out Nice House by the Sea if you haven't read the 2 volumes of Nice House by the Lake. I will absolutely suggest that. Like read Nice House by the Lake first, then Nice House by the Sea. there you go. We got comics up the
Beautiful.
wazoo next week. A lot of good horror stuff. A lot of good horror stuff. I know we have one book from Magma that I'm looking forward to talking about. A good little monster slasher from Magma. That looks fantastic. What is that called, TJ?
Night of the Slashers, I think.
Night
Let's triple
of the
check that real
Slashers.
quick.
Yes, it is Night of the Slashers. So I
Yes.
would suggest picking that one up because we got an advanced copy of that. And if you like monster slashers, look, it's a fun book. You getting some monster slasher out of it.
Getting some monsters, you getting some slashes, you get everything. And also one book that we forgot to mention that I forgot to mention, Barfly number 3. That is also coming next week from the Minor Threats universe. So fun. Long live Shit Eater. I love it.
Oh man, make sure you go to your local comic shop, go check out some comics. Like I've mentioned prior, we've had an interview with Kelly Thompson. Go check it out if you're excited for the Absolute Universe. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. I think All In #1,
I say, does
Absolute
that
All In
start
number
next week?
one is coming out next week. So there we go. We'll absolutely be talking about that, and the Absolute Power #4, the finale to that event, is next week as well. So we will be chatting all about that. But if you're looking forward to Absolute Wonder Woman, go check out an interview with Kelly Thompson where she chats all about Absolute Wonder Woman. And if DC and Absolute stuff aren't your thing, well, Jeff the Landshark is absolutely your thing because Jeff the Landshark is everybody's thing. We chat all about Jeff the Landshark as well, throwing out ideas left and right and talking about the bestest little Eisner Award winning boy you've ever met. Can't believe Jeff the Landshark. No, it's not I can't believe it. Absolutely, Jeff the Landshark won an Eisner. He deserves it. He deserves all the Eisners.
Jeff deserves everything, dude. Everything this world has to offer.
Once again, make sure you go to your local comic shop, go read some comics. Until next time.